Think every booming city is a smart place to buy a house in 2025? Think again. Beneath the surface of rising skylines and sunny real estate ads, some markets are flashing major red flags: plummeting prices, sky-high crime, climate chaos, and costs that completely outpace income. Which cities are overloaded with investor activity? Where are homes sitting unsold for months? And which places are homeowners already fleeing? In today's breakdown, we're counting down the 10 worst cities to buy a home in 2025. Places where buying could turn into your biggest regret. Number 10. Las Vegas, Nevada. When a city built on gambling starts betting against its own residents, you know the house always wins. Las Vegas saw explosive price growth during the pandemic years, with median home values surging past $435,000. But the chips are falling fast in 2025. Home values dropped 4.8% year-over-year in early 2025, and over 21% of active listings were forced to cut prices before finding buyers. That's not just market cooling. It's deflation in real time. The typical household income in Vegas hovers around $68,000, but with interest rates above 7%, monthly mortgage payments for a median-priced home exceed $2,800. For many families, that's more than 40% of their gross income. This affordability crisis is driving serious consequences. Clark County reported a 38% increase in foreclosure filings between 2023 and 2025. Crime rates add another layer of pressure. The city ranks in the top 15 nationwide for property crimes, with burglary and auto theft consistently outpacing national averages. Meanwhile, Las Vegas is hemorrhaging residents. The city lost more than 15,000 people between mid-2022 and 2024, with many citing rising costs and declining livability. Over 27% of home purchases in 2022 were made by investors, inflating prices beyond local reach. As those investors retreat, demand softens fast. Despite its reputation for flash and fun, Vegas is showing serious warning signs. But if you think desert gambling losses are concerning, wait until you see what's happening in America's struggling East Coast cities. Baltimore, Maryland. Baltimore's real estate market might look like a bargain at first glance. With a median home price around $215,000, it's well below the national average. But don't let that affordable sticker price fool you. Sometimes cheap comes with a very expensive cost. The city faces a devastating mix of systemic issues that make it a value destruction machine. Violent crime rates remain among the highest in the U.S., with over 1,600 violent crimes per 100,000 people. That's nearly 4 times the national average, driving both resident dissatisfaction and investor hesitation. The population trend tells an even grimmer story. Between 2010 and 2023, Baltimore lost over 35,000 residents, and that exodus hasn't slowed. A shrinking population means weaker housing demand, and that's a massive red flag for long-term equity growth. Vacant properties plague the landscape. As of 2024, the city had over 15,000 vacant homes, many abandoned and pulling down neighborhood values while attracting more crime. Baltimore's economy struggles to reinvent itself, with sluggish job growth leaving many neighborhoods economically stagnant. Here's the financial kicker. Median household income sits at just $56,700. Yet property taxes are among the region's highest at 2.248%. That's more than double nearby cities like Washington, D.C. Foreclosures crept up 11% in the last year alone. Baltimore might have charm and history, but it's carrying too many red flags for 2025 buyers. Of course, if you think East Coast urban struggles are challenging, just wait until you see what's brewing in America's so-called paradise destinations. Miami, Florida. Miami might look like paradise on a postcard, but buying a home here in 2025 is becoming a financial nightmare. The median home price has surged past $570,000, while the median household income remains stuck below $60,000. That creates one of the nation's worst income-to-home price ratios, with buyers spending over 60% of their income just to cover housing costs. And that's before insurance enters the equation. Due to rising flood and hurricane risks, home insurance premiums in South Florida have increased by over 55% since 2020. Some providers have pulled out altogether, leaving homeowners scrambling for coverage or stuck with sky-high policies. The climate risk is undeniable. 85% of Miami-Dade County properties sit in FEMA-designated flood zones, raising serious questions about long-term value retention. Meanwhile, investor activity has distorted the market beyond recognition. Over 30% of residential sales went to investors or cash buyers, making it nearly impossible for average families to compete and pushing prices far beyond wage growth. This has created an overbuilt condo market now teetering on oversupply. Population growth is slowing as locals get priced out and move north. Rental vacancy rates are creeping up, and in early 2025, 19% of listings dropped their asking prices, a clear signal of a market trying to self-correct. Despite the glamour, beaches, and nightlife, Miami's housing market is flashing serious warning signs. The cost of living outpaces income, climate threats drive insurance chaos, and affordability slips further away daily. But if you think coastal climate risks are concerning, the desert heat extremes in our next city might be even more alarming. Phoenix, Arizona. Phoenix was once a haven for affordable homeownership, but that narrative has flipped dramatically. The median home price in the metro area crossed $455,000 in early 2025, up from just $280,000 in 2018. Meanwhile, incomes haven't kept pace, with average household earnings around $72,000. This price explosion has created one of the West's most stretched housing markets. Adding to the trouble is rapidly cooling buyer demand. New listings are lingering longer, with median days on market jumping to 47 compared to just 21 a year ago. Over 22% of active listings have had price cuts this year, signaling weakening confidence as sellers grow desperate to stay competitive. Phoenix also suffered one of the nation's worst cases of investor fatigue. At its peak, nearly 33% of homes were purchased by institutional investors, pricing out local buyers. Now many of those investors are backing out, leaving behind an oversupplied, overpriced landscape with too few organic buyers to sustain it. Climate stress intensifies the issue further. Phoenix endured over 55 days of 110-degree Fahrenheit plus temperatures in 2024, straining energy grids and hiking monthly utility bills. Combined with increasing water scarcity and infrastructure strain, the long-term livability factor is starting to erode. Foreclosure rates have ticked up 8% higher than 2023 as adjustable rate mortgages reset and household budgets buckle under high costs. What was once a booming growth story has morphed into a cautionary tale. But if you think desert heat challenges are intense, wait until you see what's happening in California's supposedly more temperate alternatives. Sacramento, California. Sacramento once offered a more affordable alternative to the Bay Area, but in 2025 it's become one of California's most problematic housing markets. Median home prices have surged to nearly $550,000, but incomes haven't caught up. The average household income sits around $77,000. That means many buyers are spending well over 35% of their gross income on monthly housing costs. What's quietly driving buyers away is the exploding cost of home insurance. With wildfires becoming more frequent and intense in nearby foothill regions, insurers are either pulling out of the Sacramento market or raising premiums by 50% or more. Homeowners now pay upwards of $3,000 annually for coverage that used to cost half that amount. The market is showing clear signs of strain. In the first quarter of 2025, 24% of homes listed experienced price reductions, and properties are sitting on the market for an average of 49 days, up from just 22 in 2022. Meanwhile, outmigration is accelerating rapidly. Many residents who moved in during the pandemic are now leaving due to heat, high costs, and declining affordability. The city saw a net loss of over 9,000 residents in the past year alone. Overbuilding has created risky oversupply in certain suburban zones, and combined with rising mortgage rates and high utility costs, Sacramento is starting to feel less like a haven and more like a housing trap. The dream of affordable California living in Sacramento is slipping away, replaced by cost headaches and climate anxieties. But if you think state capital struggles are challenging, imagine trying to afford America's most expensive and iconic city, New York City. New York. There's no denying New York's iconic appeal. But in 2025, owning property here is becoming an exercise in financial stress. The median home price across NYC sits above $760,000, and for Manhattan it easily crosses $1.1 million. Yet the city's median household income is around $75,000, creating a massive disconnect that makes ownership viable only for the wealthy or over-leveraged. The cost of living continues outpacing wage growth, with property taxes, maintenance fees, and insurance costs piling on relentlessly. Condo association fees in Manhattan now average $1,550 per month, and that's before mortgage payments. Monthly rents hit an all-time high of $3,680, pushing even longtime residents to reconsider staying. The population exodus tells a troubling story. Between 2020 and 2024, NYC lost over 400,000 residents, driven by remote work opportunities, high taxes, and safety concerns. This shift has cooled demand in some areas while others remain dangerously overvalued, creating a market that feels both volatile and overpriced. Despite its reputation for being too big to fail, foreclosure activity is quietly rising, up 16% in 2024, especially in boroughs like Queens and the Bronx. High interest rates, stagnant wages, and job uncertainty in tech and finance are squeezing buyers at every level. Even luxury buyers are hesitant. In 2025, more than 30% of new listings over $2 million were withdrawn without selling. The shine of owning in the Big Apple is dimming fast, but if you think East Coast elite costs are problematic, wait until you see what's happening with West Coast crime and safety concerns. Oakland, California. Oakland once stood as a creative, diverse, and relatively affordable neighbor to San Francisco, but by 2025 it has earned a different reputation, one of the worst places to buy a home. Median home prices have held firm above $720,000, while median household incomes hover just under $80,000, forcing buyers into mortgage payments that stretch them dangerously thin, especially with interest rates near 7%. But affordability isn't the only concern making headlines. It's safety. Oakland currently has one of the highest property crime rates in the nation, with burglaries, carjackings, and assaults all significantly above national averages. In 2024 alone, over 6,519 property crimes were reported, creating an environment where buyers are increasingly hesitant to invest long-term. Investor pullback has intensified the city's housing woes. During the pandemic boom, corporate investors swooped in, but now that the market is softening, they're dumping properties. This leads to increased supply, price reductions, and uncertainty. Nearly 29% of homes listed in the first quarter of 2025 received price cuts, and many sit unsold for 60-plus days. Oakland is also grappling with population decline. The city lost over 15,000 residents in the past 2 years as families moved to safer, more affordable areas or even out of state. Schools and public services are feeling the pressure, and infrastructure upgrades haven't kept pace. With declining livability, high crime, and prices that no longer match value, Oakland's housing market feels like it's teetering. But if you think California crime concerns are troubling, wait until you discover what's lurking beneath the cultural charm of certain southern cities. New Orleans, Louisiana. New Orleans is overflowing with charm, culture, and history. But for home buyers in 2025, it's also overflowing with red flags. The median home price in the metro area is around $275,000, which might seem affordable, but don't be fooled by the sticker price. This city sits at the top of the national flood risk list. According to recent data, 80% of all listings in New Orleans fall within FEMA-designated flood zones, and flood insurance premiums have doubled in just 5 years. The average homeowner now pays $3,200 annually for flood insurance alone, and that's if coverage is even available. Combine that with property taxes, maintenance in a humid climate, and higher utility bills, and the overall cost of living becomes a serious burden. Crime adds another major concern. New Orleans has one of the highest violent crime rates in the country, with over 1,450 violent crimes per 100,000 residents, more than triple the national average. This directly impacts both resale value and neighborhood desirability. Population loss continues weakening demand. From 2020 to 2024, the city lost over 35,000 residents, many relocating due to rising living costs, public safety concerns, and unreliable infrastructure. Home appreciation has slowed dramatically. In 2025, year-over-year price growth dropped to just 1.2%, while nearly 26% of listings had price reductions. For many, New Orleans will always have a special place in the heart. But for real estate, it's quickly becoming a financial flood zone. But if you think Louisiana's water troubles are concerning, our final California warning might be the most alarming of all. Riverside, California. Riverside was once a budget-friendly alternative to coastal California, but in 2025 it's one of the worst places to buy a home. The median home price has ballooned to $585,000, while the average household income is only about $78,000. That mismatch puts buyers in an affordability chokehold, with many spending over 40% of their income just to cover the basics of homeownership. The market is showing serious signs of strain. According to recent analysis, Riverside ranks among the top 5 most overvalued housing markets in the country. Price-to-income ratios are completely out of sync. In the first quarter of 2025, 28% of listings experienced price drops, and inventory is rising fast. As new construction floods the market while buyer demand slows due to high interest rates and inflation stress. Investor activity added fuel to the fire during 2021 to 2022, when Riverside saw a wave of institutional investment with more than 30% of homes purchased by investors. Now that interest rates have climbed, many of those investors are pulling out, leaving bloated housing stock that's quickly losing value. Climate challenges stack on top of economic issues. Riverside faces extreme heat, droughts, and worsening wildfire risk. Insurance premiums are up significantly, 35% on average since 2022, especially in high-risk zones near the foothills. Utility costs are among California's highest due to strained water systems and power infrastructure. The area is also losing residents, with families heading to more affordable areas or out of state, a net loss of over 12,000 people since 2023. Riverside's housing market has officially passed the boiling point, but if you think inland California's struggles are intense, our final destination promises to shatter every illusion about magical real estate markets. Orlando, Florida. Orlando may be the home of magic and Mickey Mouse, but in 2025, its housing market is anything but enchanting. Once considered a budget-friendly Florida destination, Orlando's median home price has surged to $518,000, while median household income remains just $65,000. This puts homeownership completely out of reach for many locals, with buyers needing to spend over 45% of their income just to afford mortgage payments, taxes, and insurance. Rising costs aren't the only problem. The The city's housing market is showing serious signs of overvaluation. Recent reports indicate that 19% of homebuyers canceled contracts in early 2025, among the highest cancellation rates in the country. This signals weak buyer confidence and suggests many homes are being listed well above what the market can actually support. Insurance is another massive hurdle. With increasing flood risk and hurricanes, home insurance premiums have soared by 65% since 2020. Many providers have left Florida entirely, creating a situation where homeowners pay $4,000 or more annually, often for limited coverage. Population churn adds to the instability. While some people still move in for jobs or weather, many locals are relocating due to unsustainable living expenses. The city has seen a 5.2% increase in outbound migration since 2023, especially among younger residents who can no longer afford to stay. Overbuilding compounds the issue. New subdivisions and condos have popped up faster than demand can keep up, creating an inventory glut that's pushing prices downward. In some neighborhoods, prices have already dropped 3 to 5% year over year. Orlando's housing market looks sparkly on the outside, but the magic is wearing thin, and for buyers in 2025, it's become one of the riskiest bets in the country.